guy running with Latin. The guy run, my friend, but they're gonna catch him. You see that, my friend? They're gonna go get him. They're gonna go get him, my friend. Look.
What's up, fam? It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Thank you for joining me on this YouTube Thursday, where today we'll be discussing the topic of finding the perfect kick for your productions. But before we jump into the details, what I need from you is that SLC for my purveyors. Subscribe, like, comment, and more importantly, hit the notifications bell. Without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, so let's jump into things. I'm going to show you a few different ways to get to the perfect kick. The first method involves the use of machine in the sample pack. I rarely do this anymore, to be very transparent with you, but I'm just showing you my journey. And the reason why I would leverage a sample pack is almost to get a really good base of a properly EQ'd and processed kick. You know, there's some more complex dudes that want to create it on a synth using a particular sine wave and going through that whole procedure. That's not me. I'm all about the efficacy and just going through the flow of creativity. So the particular sample pack I've loaded into machine here is Drum Dog XL. There's over, let me see, yeah, it's about 150 different kicks. I got 135 loaded up here, so we'll just give it a listen. And these are the MIDI notes for it. And again, I love running it through machine because you can do things like this. You can actually tune the kick to, you know, the key that you want, the pitch that you want. And I haven't even begun EQing this yet. I have this on pad 5 here. So let's see it. Let's get this out of the way. Sorry for the latency on my highlighter. I gotta find a new one. So you'll see already got my distortion on. You see my previous videos on distortion, allowing kicks to cut through. Like my boy Harry Romero said, I'd also add a Pultec to this, just to beef up the kick even more. Now I got it on low latency mode. Let me take that off. Should be able to hear a slight difference there. And what I typically do after I've dragged and dropped the machine MIDI notes triggering this kick after I've tuned it, and I normally do that here and just screwed up there. What I normally do is press this, drag and drop it into the window. I'm not going to do it because I already have it there. And then it would present me the MIDI notes for that particular pad. And now that I've done some rough EQing here on pad 5 using distortion and the Pultec, I would do in Logic what is called as a bounce in place. So sorry, Control B. So here it's come up and it's asking me, you know, when I bounce, whatever you're hearing here, should I bypass the effect plugins, which is no. I like it as is. Should we use normalization? Yeah, we can use that. Hit OK. And now what I'm going to do is mute pad 5 because it'll just phase out what I just did here. Now here is my kick. It's on this channel, which is basically the Drum Dog XL kick 135 bounced in place, which is what BIP means. Now we're here and give it a listen. Nice and punchy. It's the way I like it. So that's the first technique, and I know I don't need to put any other processing on it other than switch it over to mono because it was in stereo there when I bounced it. And it's just right down the middle. It's a process kick and it's ready to go. So that is the first technique. The other piece, let me just mute this out, is sampling off a record. So let's give this beat break a listen. Sounds pretty cool. So what I would do here zoom right into the sample. I know the first beat here is the kick. This is something I don't do too often. It really depends on the record, depends on the vibe that I'm working with and what I'm getting from it. Sometimes I'll just take this and layer it with the other kick that I've just bounced in place, and then EQ accordingly. So if I pull up my console here, where do I have the Pinot break? Damn. I cannot find it. No, I can find it. It's right here. So it's on channel 14. Let's pull that back up again. And there it is, the Pinot break. And I can EQ this along with, the other kick I just loaded. So now it's just looping. But let's find the other kick I just bounced in place. Sorry if that's making you dizzy. Sounds kind of funny. There's a latency. No, it makes no difference, but you get the gist of it. This is a kick off of a record. Depending on what's going on with other samples that I'm working with, I would make the call to see if I need to layer it with something else. I try to avoid layering as much as possible, mainly due to the issue of phase. Now, that's one of the great things about console 1 here. You have access to what is known as a phase invert. It's this guy here, so I'm turning it off and on, and it's beautiful. It helps you avoid that, because the thing with phase, if you know how phase works, it's basically two signals, and when they're going at the same time right in the middle, they're canceling each other out. That's why, I think I've said this in other videos, but if I haven't, I'll say it now. That's why it's important that your vocals are in mono, because when they're in stereo, it could get lost on the sides, and by the time you play it in the club, you're wondering, where the hell did the vocal go? It's because you didn't put it straight down the middle. The beauty of phase inversion is that it flips the signals to ensure that they're not canceling each other out. That is the simplest explanation. Any Geek Down audiophiles, you can please comment on that for a more detailed response if you wish. I'm just giving the Coles Notes version. And Wano, you can put a fun fact there about Coles Notes. Probably be a life lesson for you and your ways minute ways. But anyway, let's get back into it. So the last piece is, let's say you've taken those kicks and you happen to layer them and you got them in a perfect place, is to simply sample those. And this is a kick I've used for eons now, because it just works for me. It's, in my opinion, the perfect kick. I get the right low end when I need it by simply EQing. If I need it to cut through a particular mix, I put some more distortion on it and play with it. But I don't need to do much, and it's to the point where I don't even need to throw it through my drum bus here. I'll just give you a look. Where are you? Drums. Here we go. Bus 13. I don't need to solo that. Lovely. Come back to me, connection. So this is my drum bus, and it's Shadow Hills compressor with a factory setting I just tweaked here, and I kind of decide based on the project how much of it I want to use. When it comes to the kick, because I want that thing to just cut through, most of the time it's just going right to the stereo channel here. And if you watch my other video on my master chain journey, you'll understand why that works, because I'm using a less is more approach. But that being said, I just love this kick, and it's just a fallout of the first two techniques that I just showed you. And the other thing is, I can always go back, load this into Machine, because it's processed already as a sound, and tune it in key, and I'm still good to go. So there you have it. Those are three distinct techniques that work. You can load up a sample pack, kick into a machine or into another drum processing sequencer that you may be using in your DAW. Tune it to the key of the samples or chords that you're playing, and then bounce it out as an audio file. Or you can leave it as a MIDI triggered event that allows you to swap it out based on whatever works well for your workflow. And then experiment with layering that with other kicks sampled from records. And one point I missed about why I like sampling from records on occasion. And when I say records, I'm talking about old, like 70s, 80s, 90s records even, is just because those records have maintained a level of dynamics that is unheard of today. In a lot of today's music, things are just overly compressed and processed, and what you get is this squash thing. And that's why old records like Michael Jackson's Off the Wall and old 70s classic rock and ZZ Top, all those records, they sound so great because they use a less is more approach, and they didn't have all these bloody compressors squashing the hell out of signals. So sampling from records is great. You don't need to do much with it. You might need to boost it a bit just to meet today's loudness levels, but less is more in that regard, and you can experiment with layering that with great sample pack kicks. And then lastly is just to go back to the kicks that work for you and make sure you can process them. So this kick here has been working nicely for me. It's been a nice journey, but it's just working very well, and I do tweak it from time to time. And depending on the genre, if it's more of a harder techie track, I'll use a completely different kick, but I got to that kick using the same processes that I've just described to you. So thanks again for joining me. It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Please continue to subscribe, hit like, comment, and more importantly, hit the notifications bell. Much love and respect to you. Stay up, keep working, stay healthy, stay lovely, and let's keep it moving. Peace.